Jake Morrison sat in the pilot seat of his cargo freighter and stared at the red warning lights flashing across the control panel. Each blink reminded him that he was running out of time. The life support system was dying, and he had maybe 3 days of breathable air left. After that, the ship would become his tomb. The Wanderer had been his home for 8 years. She was old, ugly, and barely held together, but she was his. Or at least she had been until 3 months ago when everything went wrong. Jake had refused to transport weapons for the Vance crime syndicate, and that decision had cost him everything. They blacklisted him across half the sector. No legitimate company would hire him. No port would give him credit. He was alone, broke, and dying slowly in the cold dark of space. He looked at his credit account on the screen. The number was so low it made him feel sick. Not enough to fix the life support. Not enough to pay his docking fees at Epsilon 7 station. Not enough to buy food for more than a few days. He had made the right choice by refusing the syndicate, but right choices did not keep a man alive in space. Jake rubbed his face with both hands. He had not slept well in weeks. Every sound the ship made seemed louder now, every creak and groan a reminder that the Wanderer was failing. The recycling systems were next, then the heating, then the gravity plating. The ship was dying around him, one system at a time. The chronometer showed it was late in the station's night cycle. Most of the docked ships would be quiet now, their crews either asleep or drinking in the station bars. Jake could not afford the bars anymore. He could barely afford to breathe. The knock on the hatch made him jump. It was not a polite knock. It was metal on metal, loud and deliberate, 3 hard strikes that echoed through the empty cargo bay. Jake stood up slowly, his hand moving to the plasma cutter he kept near the pilot seat. Epsilon 7 was not a safe station. Pirates, smugglers, and worse made it their home. An unexpected visitor at this hour meant trouble. He walked through the narrow corridor to the main hatch. The viewport showed him who was knocking, and he stopped cold. The figure outside was not fully human. That much was obvious even through the reinforced glass. Her left arm was completely mechanical, sleek metal plating that caught the dim light of the docking bay. Her face was half flesh and half circuitry, with one normal human eye and one that glowed with a soft blue light. Tubes and wires ran along her neck and disappeared under her jacket. She was a cyborg, heavily augmented, more machine than person. Jake had seen her before. She docked in the bay next to his in a small combat shuttle that looked military. He had watched her come and go over the past 2 weeks but had never spoken to her. There was something dangerous about her, something that made smart people keep their distance. She knocked again, harder this time. The sound made his teeth hurt. Jake unsealed the hatch. The moment it opened, she stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. She moved like a predator, smooth and controlled, her cybernetic eye scanning the interior of his ship in seconds. "Captain Morrison," she said. Her voice was strange, half human warmth and half electronic precision. "We need to talk." "I don't know you," Jake said, keeping his hand near the plasma cutter. "My name is Kira Chen. I've been watching you for 2 weeks. She turned to face him fully, and he saw that her right leg was also mechanical below the knee. "I know you're in trouble. I know your life support is failing. I know you have 74 hours of air left, maybe less." "That's my business," Jake said, but his voice sounded weak even to himself. "I have a job for you," Kira said. She did not waste time with small talk. "I need transport to the outer reaches. To Gehenna 9, specifically. There's an abandoned research station there. I need to retrieve something." Jake laughed, but there was no humor in it. "The outer reaches are quarantined." "That's a death sentence." "Maybe," Kira said, "but you're already dying. At least this way you have a chance." She was right, and they both knew it. Jake felt anger rise in his chest. "Why me? There are other pilots at this station." "Because you're one of the few humans in this sector with both skill and honor," Kira said. Her human eye studied his face while her cybernetic eye continued to scan the ship. 3 months ago, you refused to transport weapons for the Vance Syndicate. You chose integrity over money, even though you knew it would destroy you. I need someone who keeps their word no matter the cost. That integrity is killing me," Jake said bitterly. "Then let it save you instead," Kira replied. She pulled a data chip from her pocket and held it out. "This contains half the payment up front, enough to fix your life support, pay your docking fees, and buy fuel. The other half when we reach Gehenna 9 and I retrieve what I need." Jake looked at the chip but did not take it. "What are you retrieving?" "I can't tell you that." "Then we have no deal," Kira's expression did not change. There are people who want me dead. Powerful people. If I tell you what I'm after, you become a target too. All you need to know is that it's time-sensitive and dangerous. We leave in 6 hours, and if I say no, then you die here in 3 days alone, suffocating in your own ship. Kira's voice was flat, stating facts without emotion. Your choice. Jake hated that she was right. He hated that she had watched him struggle for 2 weeks without offering help until now. He hated that she was manipulating him with his own desperation. But most of all, he hated that he was going to say yes. How do I know you'll pay the second half? He asked. You don't, Kira said. But I know you'll complete the job anyway because that's who you are. You finish what you start. She stepped closer and pressed the data chip into his hand. Her mechanical fingers were cold against his skin. Check the account. Transfer what you need for repairs. We depart at 0600 station time. I haven't agreed yet, Jake said. Yes, you have, Kira said. You agreed the moment you opened that hatch. She walked back to the door and paused. One more thing, Captain Morrison. Once we leave this station, there's no turning back. The job is dangerous and people will try to stop us. Some of them might succeed. You need to understand that before we launch. I understand, Jake said quietly. Kira nodded once and left, disappearing into the shadows of the docking bay. Jake stood alone in his ship, holding the data chip and feeling like he had just signed his own death warrant. He walked back to the pilot seat and inserted the chip into the console. The account information appeared on screen and his eyes went wide. She had not lied. The payment was real and it was generous. More than generous. It was enough to save his ship and his life. Jake sat back and closed his eyes. He should feel relieved. He should feel grateful. Instead, he felt terrified. Something about Kira Chen was very wrong. The way she moved, the way she talked, the certainty in her voice. She was not just augmented. She was something else, something dangerous. But the oxygen meter was still counting down. 73 hours now. 73 hours until he died. Jake opened his eyes and began typing commands into the console. He transferred credits to the repair depot and ordered the parts he needed for the life support system. He bought fuel and food. He checked the Wanderer's engines and weapons systems. If he was flying into the outer reaches, he needed to be ready. 6 hours until departure. 6 hours until he flew into quarantined space with a cyborg who had secrets worth killing for. It was insane. It was suicide, but it was also his only chance to survive. Jake Morrison had always been good at one thing, staying alive when the odds said he should be dead. Maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. The Wanderer left Epsilon 7 station exactly at 0600 hours. Jake guided the old freighter away from the docking clamps and into open space, feeling the familiar vibration of the engines beneath his feet. The new life support system hummed quietly, filling the ship with clean air. It felt like breathing for the first time in months. Kira sat in the co-pilot seat, silent and still. She had brought minimal gear, just a single duffel bag and a weapon case. She wore different clothes now, tactical gear that looked military grade. Her cybernetic parts were more visible in the bright cockpit lights. Jake tried not to stare, but it was hard to ignore the way her mechanical fingers moved across the navigation console with perfect precision. Course plotted for Gehenna 9, Jake said. 5 days travel time if we don't hit any problems. We'll hit problems, Kira said. It was not a guess. It was a certainty. Jake wanted to ask what she meant, but he had learned in the past 6 hours that Kira did not answer questions she did not want to answer. Instead, he focused on flying. The Wanderer might be old, but she was reliable. He knew every sound she made, every quirk of her systems. She would get them there. The first day passed in silence. Jake tried to sleep in shifts, but every time he left the cockpit, he was aware of Kira sitting there unmoving, watching the stars. He wondered if she ever slept. Maybe cyborgs did not need sleep. Maybe whatever had been done to her had taken that away too. On the second day, Kira finally spoke. I was human once, she said suddenly. Completely human. No metal, no circuits, no glowing eyes. Jake looked at her surprised. She had not volunteered any personal information before. I was a combat medic in the frontier wars, Kira continued. Her voice was quiet, almost distant, like she was remembering something from very far away. 15 years ago. I served with the 3rd Marine Division against the Krill invasion. We were good at our jobs. We saved a lot of lives. What happened? Jake asked carefully. Ambush, Kira said. My whole unit was wiped out. 32 soldiers dead in under 10 minutes. I was the only survivor, and I was barely alive. Multiple gunshot wounds, internal bleeding, half my body crushed under debris. She held up her mechanical arm and studied it like it belonged to someone else. I should have died there, but you didn't. No, scavengers found me 3 days later. They sold me to people who specialized in experimental cybernetics. The Meridian Corporation. They needed test subjects for their augmentation program. Her cybernetic eye flickered. They rebuilt me without asking. Without consent. When I woke up, I was this. Jake felt cold anger settle in his stomach. That's illegal. The Augmentation Rights Act doesn't apply in deep space, Kira said. And Meridian has enough money and power to make laws disappear. They took soldiers, refugees, prisoners, anyone they could get. They called it saving lives. They called it giving people a second chance. Her human eye fixed on him. It was slavery. It was torture. How did you escape? I killed 3 guards and stole a shuttle, Kira said simply. That was 10 years ago. I've been hiding ever since, taking jobs, gathering information. 6 months ago, I found something. Evidence that Meridian is still running the program. Still taking people and turning them into machines against their will. And this evidence is on Gehenna 9. Part of it. The research station there was one of their black sites. They abandoned it 3 years ago after something went wrong. But their servers are still there. If I can access them, I can expose the entire program. I can stop them from doing to others what they did to me. Jake understood now. This was not about money. This was about justice. Or maybe revenge. Maybe both. The station is in the outer reaches, Jake said. That's quarantined territory. Ships disappear there, crews go missing. Whatever Meridian was doing, they picked that location for a reason. I know, Kira said. That's why I needed someone who wouldn't turn back when things got dangerous. On the 3rd day, they crossed into the outer reaches. Jake felt the change immediately. The navigation charts became less reliable. Sensor readings fluctuated without reason. Even the stars looked different somehow, colder and more distant. This was space that humans had barely explored, where the normal rules did not always apply. Stay alert, Kira said. We're not alone out here, she was right. On the 4th day, they found the debris. It appeared on their sensors first, a scattered field of wreckage in their path. Jake slowed the Wanderer and approached carefully. What he saw made his blood run cold. Ships, dozens of them, all destroyed within the last day or two. Their hulls torn open, their systems dead. Jake recognized the design. Corporate strike teams, military vessels with heavy weapons and armor. Something had ripped through them like paper. Meridian, Jake asked. Kira studied the wreckage through the viewport. Probably. They must have sent a team to the station when they learned I was coming. But something got to them first. Something? Look at the damage patterns, Kira said. Those aren't weapons burns. No explosion marks. No projectile impacts. The ships were cut apart with precision. Whatever did this use technology we don't have. Jake felt fear crawl up his spine. Maybe we should turn back. We can't. Why not? Kira turned to face him. Remember the life support patch you installed with the credits I gave you? It has a failsafe. If we turn back now, if we deviate from the course to Gehenna 9, it will shut down automatically. You'll have about 12 hours of air left. Jake stared at her. You rigged my ship? I needed insurance, Kira said. Her voice held no apology. I needed to make sure you wouldn't abandon me halfway. I told you there was no turning back. I meant it. Rage flooded through Jake. He wanted to scream at her, to throw her off his ship. But she was right. He was trapped. She had manipulated him from the beginning, and he had walked right into it. You're a piece of work, he said through clenched teeth. I'm a survivor, Kira replied. Same as you. I do what I have to do. Jake turned back to the controls, his hands shaking with anger. But he kept flying. What choice did he have? They left the debris field behind and continued toward Gehenna 9. The dead planet appeared on their sensors hours later, a barren rock with no atmosphere. The research station was a small cluster of lights in orbit, running on minimal power. But there was something else there too. Something much bigger. What is that? Jake whispered. A massive vessel hung in space near the station. It was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. The design was alien, strange geometric patterns covering its hull. It looked ancient, like it had been there for thousands of years, but it was not dead. Faint lights pulsed across its surface, and their instruments detected energy readings that made no sense. I don't know, Kira said. She sounded worried for the first time since they met. That wasn't in the intelligence reports. That shouldn't be here. It's powering up, Jake said, watching his screens. Whatever it is, it's waking up. Kira checked her systems frantically. It's detecting us. Or more specifically, it's detecting me. My cybernetics are broadcasting some kind of signal. I didn't know they could do that. What do? We get to the station, Kira said. Fast, before that thing finishes waking up. Jake pushed the Wanderer to maximum speed. The old freighter groaned but responded, her engines burning hot as they raced toward the research station. Behind them, the alien vessel continued to power up, more lights flickering to life across its massive hull. Jake had flown into dangerous situations before. He had survived pirates, corporate raids, even a krill attack once. But this was different. This was something older than humanity, something that had waited in the dark for reasons he could not understand. And somehow, Kira Chen had the key to wake it up. When we dock, Kira said, we move fast. Get to the central server room, download the data, and get out. We might have an hour before that ship becomes fully operational, maybe less. And if we don't make it in time, Kira looked at the alien vessel through the viewport. Then we die learning what scared Meridian Corporation enough to abandon this place 3 years ago. The research station grew larger in their view. Jake lined up for docking approach, his heart pounding in his chest. Whatever happened next, he knew his life had just become much more complicated than a simple transport job. He glanced at Kira and saw her mechanical fingers gripping the armrest of her seat. For the first time, she looked afraid. That was not comforting. The docking clamps sealed with a hollow thud that echoed through the Wanderer. Jake and Kira stood at the airlock, suited up and armed. Jake carried his plasma cutter and a small pistol. Kira had weapons built into her body, he realized. Her mechanical arm could probably kill someone with a single strike. Stay close, Kira said. Don't touch anything unless I tell you to. The airlock cycled open and they stepped into the research station. The air was cold and stale. Emergency lights provided dim illumination, casting long shadows down the corridors. Everything was quiet except for the hum of backup power systems struggling to keep the station functional. Jake's helmet light cut through the darkness as they moved forward. The station looked abandoned in a hurry. Computer terminals were still logged in, showing data that had been accessed years ago and never closed. Coffee cups sat on desks, the liquid inside long since evaporated. A jacket hung on a chair, like someone had just stepped out for a moment and never returned. What happened here? Jake asked quietly. That's what I want to find out, Kira said. They passed through what looked like living quarters. Personal items scattered everywhere. Photos of families, books, music players. These had been real people working here, living here. Now they were gone and only their belongings remained. The corridor opened into a larger room and Jake stopped cold. Medical equipment filled the space. Operating tables with restraints. Machines with needles and probes. Cages built to hold people. The walls were covered with charts showing human bodies marked with surgical plans. This was where the augmentation happened. This was where people were taken apart and rebuilt. Kira stood in the center of the room, her cybernetic eye scanning everything. This is where they made people like me, she said. Her voice was hollow. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. Kira, Jake said softly. The server room is 2 levels down, Kira said, ignoring the emotion in his voice. Let's move. They found the stairs and descended into darkness. Jake's suit light flickered once and his heart jumped. The station felt wrong, like something was watching them. His instincts screamed at him to leave, to run back to his ship and fly away. But the life support failsafe kept him moving forward. The server room was behind a sealed door. Kira used her stolen access codes to unlock it, and they entered a cold chamber filled with humming computers. Lights blinked across the servers, showing that data was still stored here, waiting to be accessed. Watch the door, Kira said. She moved to the main console and began typing rapidly. Her mechanical fingers moved faster than human hands could, accessing systems and downloading files. Jake stood guard, his pistol drawn. The corridor outside was empty, but he could not shake the feeling that they were not alone. Small sounds echoed through the station, metal creaking, air moving through vents. Something else, something he could not identify. How long? He asked. 10 minutes, Kira said. Maybe 15. There's more data here than I expected. Jake waited, his nerves stretched tight. Every second felt like an hour. He watched the shadows in the corridor looking for movement. The station seemed to be holding its breath. Then he heard it, a sound that made his skin crawl, scratching, metal on metal. Coming from somewhere deeper in the station, Kira, Jake said. We're not alone. I know, she said without looking up. I heard it too. Keep watching. The scratching got louder, closer. Jake raised his pistol and activated his suit's motion tracker. The screen showed multiple contacts moving toward them through the station's corridors. Dozens of them. They were surrounded. Kira, we need to go now. 2 more minutes. The first one appeared at the end of the corridor. Jake's light caught it and he felt his stomach turn. It had been human once. He could see that in its basic shape, but it was twisted now, covered in malfunctioning cybernetics. Metal plates jutted from its skin at wrong angles. Wires hung loose from its body. One arm ended in a broken blade. Its face was a mask of pain and madness. It saw Jake and screamed. The sound was half human and half machine, a horrible combination that made Jake's ears ring. More appeared behind it, all of them damaged, all of them broken. These were the test subjects, the people Meridian had experimented on. They had not escaped. They had stayed here, trapped in the station, driven mad by their malfunctioning augmentations. Kira, we're leaving now. Kira grabbed the data chip and pulled it from the console. Go, they ran! The creatures came after them, moving with jerky, unnatural speed. Jake fired his pistol, hitting one in the chest. It stumbled but kept coming. These things did not die easily. Kira's mechanical arm struck out, hitting a creature that lunged at them. The impact sent it flying backward into the wall. But there were too many. They poured out of side corridors and access tunnels, drawn by the noise and movement. Jake and Kira fought their way through the station, using emergency bulkheads to slow the creatures down. Jake found a control panel and sealed a door behind them, buying precious seconds. The creatures hammered on the other side, their fists denting the metal. This way, Kira said, leading him through a maintenance passage. They climbed a ladder and emerged in a different section of the station. Jake's lungs burned and his heart hammered in his chest. Behind them, he could hear the creatures breaking through the sealed door. They reached the docking bay where the Wanderer waited. Jake had never been so happy to see his old ship. They sprinted across the bay as creatures emerged from multiple access points converging on them. Get the engines hot, Kira shouted. I'll seal the airlock. Jake ran for the ship, his legs pumping. A creature grabbed at him and he fired his pistol at point-blank range. The thing's head snapped back, but its fingers still clutched at his suit. He tore free and kept running. He reached the Wanderer and threw himself through the hatch. His fingers flew across the controls, activating systems and preparing for launch. The engines roared to life, filling the docking bay with heat and noise. Kira was still outside, fighting off 3 creatures at once. Her mechanical arm moved like a weapon, precise and deadly. She kicked one creature away, punched another, and grabbed the third by the throat. For a moment, she held it there, looking into its twisted face. Jake saw something pass across her expression. Recognition. Pity. Horror. This could have been her. She threw the creature aside and ran for the ship. More were coming. A wave of broken, tortured beings. Jake kept the engines ready, his hand on the controls. The moment Kira was through the hatch, he activated the thrusters. The Wanderer tore free from the docking clamps with a screech of metal. Several creatures were still clinging to the hull, but they lost their grip as the ship accelerated. Jake watched them tumble away into space, their bodies freezing instantly in the vacuum. Are you okay? Jake asked. Kira sat in the co-pilot seat, breathing hard. Her mechanical parts showed damage from the fight. Dents and scratches covered her arm and sparks flickered from a joint in her leg. But she was alive. I'm fine, she said. Did you see them? Those people. That's what Meridian does. That's what they wanted to turn everyone into. You're nothing like them, Jake said firmly. I could have been, Kira said quietly, if my augmentations had failed. If the programming had broken down, I would have ended up like them, trapped in suffering and unable to die. Jake wanted to say something comforting, but alarms blared across the control panel. The alien ship was fully powered now, its lights blazing in the darkness. Weapon ports opened along its hull and energy began to gather. It's targeting us, Jake said. No, Kira said, checking her systems. It's targeting me. The signal from my cybernetics. It's getting stronger. What do we do? Kira looked at the data chip she had risked everything to retrieve. We find out what Meridian was really doing here. and we find out what that thing is." She pointed at the alien vessel. "Because I don't think they stumbled on it by accident. I think they were looking for it. And I think I'm the reason why." Jake looked at the ancient ship powering its weapons. They had seconds before it fired. He had two choices: run and hope they could outrun alien technology thousands of years advanced, or fly toward it and hope they could find answers before they died. He thought about the creatures on the station, the people who had been turned into monsters by Meridian's experiments. He thought about Kira, who had been through the same process but somehow stayed human. He thought about himself, a cargo pilot who had chosen honor over money and ended up here, in the darkest corner of space, facing something that should not exist. "Hold on," Jake said, and turned the Wanderer directly toward the alien ship. Kira looked at him like he was insane. Maybe he was, but if they were going to die, they might as well die trying to understand why. The Wanderer raced toward the alien vessel, and every instinct Jake possessed told him this was suicide. The ancient ship was massive, easily 20 times larger than any human vessel he had ever seen. Its hull was covered in patterns that hurt his eyes if he looked at them too long. Weapon ports glowed with energy that made his sensors scream warnings. "You're flying us straight at it," Kira said, her voice tight. "You have a better idea?" Jake asked, his hands steady on the controls despite his fear. "Actually, no," Kira said. She was accessing the data she had downloaded from the station, files scrolling across her screen faster than Jake could follow. "Wait, there's something here. Information about the alien ship." Meridian knew what it was. They knew what it could do. "Tell me quickly," Jake said. The alien vessel was growing larger, filling their viewport. Kira read rapidly, her cybernetic eye processing information at inhuman speed. The ship was discovered 40 years ago by a Meridian exploration team. It's old, thousands of years old. The species that built it visited Earth long before humans had space travel. They studied us, watched us, and they were terrified. Terrified of humans? Jake found that hard to believe. Humans were newcomers to space, weak compared to most other species. Why? "Because we adapt," Kira said. "Because we refuse to die. Because we're unpredictable." She pulled up more files. The aliens concluded that humans were potentially the most dangerous species they had ever encountered. Not because we're strong, because we're stubborn, because we keep changing, keep surviving, no matter what happens to us. Jake dodged debris from the destroyed research station, flying the Wanderer through narrow gaps. "So they left this ship here to kill us?" "To contain us," Kira said. "It's programmed to detect certain technological signatures, specifically advanced cybernetic augmentation. The aliens feared that if humans ever started combining our biological adaptability with machine enhancements, we would become unstoppable. This ship was left as a warning, a weapon. If it detected the wrong kind of technology, it would destroy everything in the sector. And your cybernetics triggered it," Jake said. "Meridian designed my augmentation specifically to do that," Kira said, anger filling her voice. "They've been testing augmented humans against this ship for years, sending people to die studying how the alien systems respond. They wanted to understand the technology so they could control it, use it as a weapon. The alien ship's weapons charged to full power. Jake could see energy gathering in patterns that defied physics. In seconds they would fire and the Wanderer would cease to exist. How do we stop it?" Jake asked. "We don't stop it," Kira said. "We talk to it." "Talk to it?" "It's a ship. It's an artificial intelligence," Kira said. "An ancient one. It's programmed to destroy augmented humans because its creators feared what we might become. But programs can be reasoned with. Programs follow logic. That's insane. So is flying directly at it," Kira pointed out. "But here we are." Jake saw an access port on the alien vessel's hull, similar to a docking port but alien in design. He aimed for it, pushing the Wanderer to her limits. The old freighter shook and groaned, but she responded. She always responded when he needed her. "I'm going to dock with that thing," Jake said. "You're going to connect to it somehow. And we're both probably going to die." "Probably," Kira agreed. "But I'd rather die trying than just give up." Jake liked that about her, even if she had manipulated him and threatened his ship. She was a fighter. She did not quit. He lined up the approach, his hands steady despite everything. The alien port was different from human designs, but the basic principles were the same. Lock, seal, connect. The Wanderer shuddered as magnetic clamps engaged. and for a moment Jake thought the old ship would tear apart. But the clamps held. "We're docked," Jake said. "Now what?" Kira was already moving, grabbing equipment from her bag. "Now I try something that will either save us or kill me instantly." She pulled out cables and interface adapters. "The alien AI is trying to destroy me because I represent what its creators feared. But what if instead of fighting it, I show it something they never considered?" "Like what?" "Like the truth about humanity," Kira said. She moved to the airlock and Jake followed. "The aliens judged us thousands of years ago based on potential. They never saw what we actually became. They never saw humans choosing to save each other even when it costs them everything." She looked at Jake. "They never saw someone like you, who refused to transport weapons even though it destroyed your life. Who helped me even though I gave you every reason not to trust me." The airlock opened to the alien vessel's interior. The air was breathable, kept that way by systems that had run for thousands of years without failing. The corridor beyond was strange, with angles that seemed wrong and lights that pulsed in patterns that made Jake's head hurt. They found what looked like a control room, though nothing looked familiar. Organic shapes mixed with crystalline technology. Screens showed images Jake could not interpret. In the center was a pillar covered in connection ports. "This is it," Kira said. "The central AI core. If I can interface with it, I might be able to communicate. And if it rejects you, then the feedback will probably fry my cybernetics and kill me," Kira said. She pulled out a cable and connected it to her arm. "If that happens, you run. Get back to your ship and fly as far as you can. Maybe you'll make it." "I'm not leaving you," Jake said. "Yes, you are," Kira said firmly. "Because someone needs to survive this. Someone needs to get the data about Meridian out to the authorities. Someone needs to finish what we started." Before Jake could argue, Kira plugged the cable into the alien pillar. Her body went rigid and her cybernetic eye blazed bright blue. Jake saw images flashing across the alien screens too fast to follow. He heard sounds that might have been communication or might have been screams. Kira's human eye rolled back and blood trickled from her nose. Whatever was happening, it was killing her. Jake moved to disconnect the cable, but she grabbed his wrist with her mechanical hand. Her grip was iron. "Don't," she whispered. "It's working. It's listening." Jake watched helplessly as Kira fought a battle he could not see. Her body shook. More blood ran from her nose and ears. The alien screen showed images now that Jake could understand. Humans, throughout history, fighting, building, dying, saving each other. He saw soldiers throwing themselves on grenades to save their friends. He saw doctors working without sleep during plagues. He saw ordinary people running into burning buildings to rescue strangers. He saw the best of humanity, the part that chose compassion over survival, that valued others more than self. The images shifted. Now he saw augmented humans, not the broken creatures from the station, but people who used their enhancements to help others. Rescue workers with enhanced strength pulling people from wreckage. Doctors with augmented precision performing impossible surgeries. Teachers with enhanced patience working with children who had no one else. The alien AI was learning. It was seeing what its creators never imagined. Humans did not become less human when they augmented themselves. They became more capable of helping each other. The danger the aliens feared was not the danger that existed. Kira gasped and fell to her knees. The cable disconnected and Jake caught her before she hit the ground. She was breathing but barely conscious. Her cybernetic parts sparked and flickered. The alien screens showed one final image, a symbol Jake did not recognize but somehow understood. Permission, acceptance. The AI was standing down. The weapon systems powered down. The lights on the alien vessel changed from red to blue. The immediate danger was over. "You did it," Jake said, cradling Kira in his arms. "It listened to you." "It understood," Kira whispered. The aliens who made it were afraid of potential. But potential means nothing. What matters is choice. What matters is what we actually do. Jake helped her to her feet. She was weak, damaged, but alive. They made their way back to the Wanderer slowly. Behind them, the alien vessel continued to power down. Its long vigil ended. Inside the ship, Jake laid Kira in the medical bay and checked her vital signs. She was stable but hurt. Her cybernetics were damaged but repairable. She would survive. He returned to the cockpit and looked at the research station, the alien vessel, the debris field of destroyed ships. So much death, so much suffering. All because powerful people had tried to control something they did not understand. But now they had the evidence. The data from the station, the truth about Meridian Corporation, and most importantly, they had survived something that should have killed them. Jake set course back to civilized space. 5 days journey, 5 days to plan what came next, 5 days to rest and heal. He looked back at Kira, unconscious in the medical bay. She had saved them both by showing an ancient AI the truth about humanity. Not that humans were perfect. Not that they were always good. But that they could choose to be better. That they could use their power to help instead of hurt. That was worth surviving for. The journey back to civilized space took 6 weeks instead of 5 days. Kira needed time to recover, and Jake was in no hurry to rush into whatever came next. They stopped at small stations along the way, places where no one asked questions and repairs could be done quietly. Kira's cybernetics had been badly damaged by the connection to the alien AI. Her mechanical arm needed replacement parts. Her leg joints had to be rebuilt. Her internal systems required complete diagnostics. Jake helped where he could, learning more about cybernetic maintenance than he ever wanted to know. He discovered that beneath all the metal and circuits, Kira was still human. She still felt pain. She still needed rest. She still had hopes and fears like anyone else. They did not talk much during those weeks. Both were processing what had happened, what they had learned, what came next. Jake repaired the Wanderer, fixing systems he had neglected for months. The ship deserved better. She had saved their lives, and he owed her proper care. On the 4th week, Kira finally felt strong enough to review all the data they had retrieved. She sat in the cargo bay with a portable screen, going through files for hours at a time. Jake brought her food and water, making sure she ate even when she was too focused to remember. "It's worse than I thought," Kira said one evening. She looked tired, her human eye red from staring at screens. "Meridian has been running the augmentation program for 20 years. Thousands of people taken, hundreds turned into what we saw on that station. The others sold as workers, soldiers, or worse. Can you prove it?" Jake asked. "Yes," Kira said. "I have financial records, video evidence, testimony from employees. Everything we need to destroy them. But it won't be easy. Meridian has friends in high places, politicians, military leaders, corporate executives. They'll fight back hard. What do you need?" "A way to release this information that can't be stopped," Kira said. "If I just hand it to the authorities, it might disappear. We need to go public. Multiple news networks, independent journalists. Release everything at once so they can't suppress it." Jake thought for a moment. "I know someone. A journalist on Nova Station. She's honest. She's published stories that got her in trouble before. If anyone will help, it's her. Can we trust her?" "As much as we can trust anyone," Jake said. They reached Nova Station 2 weeks later. It was a major hub, busy with trade and travel. The kind of place where 2 people could disappear into the crowd. Jake docked the Wanderer in a public bay, paying the fees with credits left over from Kira's payment. The journalist's name was Linda Barnes, and she worked for one of the independent networks. Jake contacted her through secure channels, and she agreed to meet them in a private location. When she saw the data Kira had brought, her eyes went wide. "This is huge," Linda said, scrolling through files. "This is going to bring down one of the biggest corporations in human space. Can you publish it?" Kira asked. "I can," Linda said, "but you both need to understand what happens next. Meridian will come after you. They'll use everything they have, money, lawyers, hired muscle. Your lives will never be the same." "My life was never going to be normal," Kira said. She gestured at her cybernetic parts. "I made peace with that a long time ago." Jake nodded. "I'm in this now. No point backing out." Linda spent 3 days verifying the data, confirming sources, preparing the story. When she published it, the response was immediate and explosive. Every major news network picked it up. Social media erupted. Government investigators opened inquiries. Meridian's stock price crashed within hours. Within a week, arrests began. Corporate executives, scientists, security personnel, anyone connected to the augmentation program. Meridian tried to fight back, claiming the evidence was fabricated, but more victims came forward. People who had been taken and experimented on. Families of those who had disappeared. The truth was too big to hide. Jake and Kira watched from the safety of the Wanderer, monitoring news feeds. They had done it. They had exposed the truth. Lives would be saved because of what they risked, but the victory felt hollow. Kira spent hours in the cargo bay staring at nothing. Jake knew she was thinking about the creatures on the station, the people who would never be saved, who had suffered and died for Meridian's greed. You couldn't save them, Jake said quietly, sitting beside her, but you saved the ones who come after. That matters, does it? Kira asked. How do I live with this? Knowing I was part of their program? Knowing I was supposed to be their weapon? You choose, Jake said. Same way you chose to show that alien AI the truth about humanity. You decide who you are, not them. Not your past you. Kira looked at him, her human eyes searching his face. Thank you, she said. For everything. For not giving up. For not leaving me behind. You gave me a reason to survive, Jake said. I was dying in that ship before you knocked on my hatch. Maybe we saved each other. Over the following months, the legal battles continued. Meridian Corporation was dismantled piece by piece. Their assets were seized. Their facilities were raided. Hundreds of illegally augmented people were found in black sites across space, and Kira worked with medical teams to help them recover. Some could be saved. Others were too far gone, but they all received dignity and care they had been denied. Kira became an advocate for augmented rights. She testified before government committees. She spoke at conferences. She helped draft new laws to protect people with cybernetic enhancements. Her face, half human and half machine, became a symbol of survival and hope. Jake received offers from every major shipping company. His role in exposing Meridian made him famous, but he turned down most of the work. He was tired of playing by corporate rules. Instead, he took selective jobs, often transporting people who needed help. Refugees, whistleblowers, scientists with dangerous knowledge. The Wanderer became known as a safe ship, a place where the desperate could find protection. Kira visited him between her advocacy work. Sometimes they would sit in the cockpit for hours, not talking, just watching the stars. Other times they would share stories about the people they had helped, the changes they were making. Do you regret it? Jake asked once. Taking that job? Knocking on my hatch? No, Kira said without hesitation. I got what I wanted, justice, a chance to stop Meridian, a chance to help others like me. She paused. And I got something I didn't expect. A friend, same, Jake said. I thought I was just taking a transport job to survive. Turns out I was starting something bigger. The alien vessel remained in orbit around Gehenna 9. Scientists studied it carefully, learning from the technology while respecting its purpose. The AI that controlled it had been dormant for thousands of years, waiting for augmented humans to appear. Now that it had been shown the truth about humanity, it allowed researchers to access its systems to learn without fear. The discoveries were revolutionary. The aliens who had built it were long extinct, destroyed by their own fear and isolation. They had been so worried about potential threats that they had stopped adapting, stopped growing. When they encountered something they could not control, they had no tools to handle it. Humanity took the lesson to heart. Power was not the danger. Fear was. Control was not the answer. Trust was. The future belonged to those who could adapt, who could change, who could see potential in others rather than just threat. Jake stood in the cockpit of the Wanderer, watching a planet slowly rotate below. He had a new job lined up, transporting medical supplies to a remote colony. Simple work. Honest work. The kind he preferred. His communicator chimed. A message from Kira. She was testifying before the Central Council next week, pushing for stronger protections for augmented individuals. She wanted him there for support. Jake smiled and sent back a confirmation. He would be there, not because she needed him, but because they were in this together now. Partners, friends, two people who had survived the impossible and decided to use that survival to help others. He thought about that night on Epsilon 7 station, when Kira had knocked on his hatch and offered him a deal. A desperate deal from a desperate person. He had been dying then, running out of air and out of hope. She had given him a reason to live, but what he had given her was more important. He had shown her that trust still existed in the galaxy. That honor meant something, that people could choose to help each other even when it cost them everything. The deal she offered had saved his life. But the choice he made had saved something more important. It had saved the idea that humanity was worth believing in. Jake set course for his next destination. The Wanderer's engines hummed steadily, reliable and strong. Ahead lay more jobs, more challenges, more people who needed help. He was ready for all of it, Because he had learned something important in the cold darkness near Gehenna 9. Survival was not enough. What mattered was what you did with that survival, how you used it, who you helped. The aliens who left that ancient vessel had feared humanity's potential. They had been right to fear it, but for the wrong reasons. Humanity was dangerous not because they were violent or unstoppable. They were dangerous because they refused to give up. Because they adapted. Because they found ways to survive and then used that survival to help others survive too. That was the real power. That was what made humans special. Not strength or intelligence or technology, but the stubborn, foolish, beautiful refusal to let the darkness win.